Welcome back to the MAC website overview. This session will address the assessment literacy standards that have been developed by the MAC and are being considered as a primary source for a credentialing system around assessment in Michigan. As we review this project, our guiding question for this session, how will I use this resource to improve my understanding of assessment and assessment practices, will be considered as we move our way through this segment. The assessment literacy standards are organized the same way for each stakeholder group. When we launch into viewing the standards together and then independently, you will notice 3 domains that are consistent for each group. Those domains are dispositions or beliefs, knowledge, and performance. As mentioned in segment 1 of this series, the assessment literacy standards are organized for 5 stakeholder groups. All are users of assessment information who have varying degrees of interest in assessment outcomes. Students, teachers, building administrator, district administrator, and policymakers use assessment information to make decisions about next steps in learning, in instruction, in district curriculum, and in policy about assessment outcomes. As we go back to the MAC website, we can access the standards and clarify how they can be used to increase understanding about assessment. Student assessment has become increasingly important to educators, students, their parents or guardians, and the public. There is a significant link between classroom instruction and assessment. But in this age of accountability, with the proliferation of large-scale and class assessment programs, there has been a conflation of focus for the classroom teacher, having to meet the needs of students and district expectations, as well as the outcomes of those large-scale measures. Those affected by student assessment outcomes, students, parents and guardians, teachers, school administrators, and local and state policymakers may not understand the assessment tools and strategies that are being used, their purposes, the types of assessments that can best match purposes for assessment, and the strengths and shortcomings of the various types of measures. Additionally, most aren't prepared to use the results from the assessments to benefit students, to improve their learning or their achievement. Therefore, the Michigan Assessment Consortium developed this set of standards with consultation from assessment experts and feedback from educators and policymakers at all levels to clarify what is critical for stakeholders to know, understand, and do regarding assessment. The ultimate goal of the MAC is that the assessment literacy standards will be used to inform policy and program development and decisions regarding assessment practices, teacher preparation, administrative certification, educator evaluation, and school accreditation. At the MAC website, we click into the standards for students, elementary and secondary, and we find the 3 domains, dispositions, knowledge, and performance, with the standards that support those domains. Extracting the dispositions or beliefs that students should have about assessment, let's review the elementary standards first. Elementary students should believe that they learn best when they know the targets for their learning, learn from taking quality assessments, learn from effective feedback to self-assess and to set their own learning goals, are responsible for their own learning, and need to use assessment results to learn more. When we look at those in comparison to the standards for secondary students, we find that the standards are essentially the same, with one exception, Standard E. Secondary students believe they can use self-monitoring to improve their achievement. The expectation is that students will grow in their understanding and belief about assessment to become self-monitoring and determine their own next steps. When we look at one more stakeholder level, the teacher, we find that there are several more things that the teacher must be mindful of regarding their disposition toward assessment. Some key points that differ from dispositions of students. Standard B. Quality assessments are a critical attribute of effective teaching and learning. Standard G. Good classroom assessment and quality instruction are intricately linked to each other. Standard H. Multiple measures can provide a more balanced picture of a student or a school. And finally, Standard I. Grading is an exercise in professional judgment, not just a numerical, mechanical exercise. Let's pause here. Take some time to compare the dispositions of building principals, district administrators, and policymakers. What do you find to be similar or different based on the needs for those groups? And as you explore, consider this question: how will I use this resource to improve my understanding of assessment and assessment practices?